for our final session, and thank you all for being with us. And by the way, thanks to all of the folks who have spoken so far today in the panel and the discussions that just concluded. As we look now to our closing session, thanks to all of you who have stayed with us through the day and through the several days. We're going to take a moment now to think aloud about, and now what? What next? Where do we go from here? So many great issues and ideas have been laid out before us. So much to unpack, so much to explore. How do we go forward from here? And myself, I'm going to serve as facilitator. We're going to ask Alex to kind of start this discussion, then each of our colleagues from the organizing committee will share for a few thoughts, and then Cynthia will wrap up and send us on our way.
All right. Well, thank you, Terry. I think this, thank you. So this has been an intense set of 3 days. You know, I think all of us are getting used to Zoom meetings, but it's always still a challenge to keep the focus here. But I think it's been facilitated by just so many excellent talks one after another, and the diversity of the perspectives on this common problem has been really exciting for me, at least. When the workshop began, or when the conference began, we put up this slide with objectives for this week. So let's see how we did. Did we strengthen the scientific basis for scaling effective and sustainable climate smart agriculture systems? I think that's a resounding yes. We've seen it, incredible science, tools, data, and I think really impressive ability to put them together to ask and answer the big questions. Have we recognized unique requirements of diverse agroecosystems, including row crops, rangelands, and specialty crops? There's always more, but I think we've shown that this is a priority for the group. And something that the experts assembled here really have the ability to reach, not only in terms of biophysically, but the systems and the people and the stakeholders involved. The third objective was to link with ongoing efforts in agency, public-private partnerships, and legislative structures and priorities. Again, we've had wonderful participation from USDA, from NASA, from Senator Schumer's office, and elsewhere. I've been very impressed not only at their willingness to come, but to put together some very clearly well thought out presentations that engage directly with the issues, and even the sessions before and after. So thank you to all of those who came and shared their thoughts and ideas for where we could go next. Finally, have we established a community of practice connecting disciplines across physical, biophysical, social, the expertise, and the institutions and stakeholders to get this done? I'd say we've taken great strides, and there's kind of, this is what's on our plate now. So we've seen that there is a need, we've seen that there is an eagerness, we've seen that there are capabilities. Now I think is the time for us to think about what comes next, so that this isn't a good workshop this week and then we all go off to our summer vacations or whatever we might have planned, and forget about it. Let's keep the momentum going, and then see if we can couple our enthusiasm with some structural support that allows this to progress going forward. So I think looking at this set of 4, I'm very impressed, and I think we have had a great week, and I look forward to the perspectives of the other organizers.
Alex, thank you. And now I'm going to ask Bruno, any thoughts, reflections on the last couple of days?
Well, no, I'm just going to echo Alex that there is such a great momentum. There is a great recognitions from both the agency, like you mentioned, Alex, the strong participation, engagement from throughout the conference, and well, the need for systems, a system approach, and as John pointed out at the beginning, this basically computational agricultural sciences needs attentions and investments. We have managed to do what we have shown today with bits and pieces, but we do really need a coordinated, effort where all these improvements comes together. This is the right time, because without system models, climate smart agriculture will be really difficult to be able to be implemented without the knowledge of, creating possible, ineffective applications, or even, damages, or at least being, again, non-effective in terms of profitability for the farmers, or not even be able to reduce the emissions as they could actually in the forecast that Bill showed. It's really interesting to see that because the other sectors will be doing significantly better. I hope those trajectories may not necessarily turn out to be like this. I think we have really strong possibilities of improving nutrient management. Farmers are realizing through actually all this, the work that we have shown today, they have much more visibility and possibility to see, how potentially some of their fields are inefficient, the way they're managed. And mainly, not just me, but I mean, talking for myself, I've shown that, nitrogen can be reduced by applying the right amount in the right place, because there is pretty strong historical performances of these fields, the low areas not needing the amount of nitrogen because of lack of water, shorter profile. So the technology allows it. And so I do think that there is a possibility of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, linking that, as I showed in one of the presentations, linking that into a reward program and incentive, like, again, part of the objective of the climate smart commodities. Can we package this greenhouse gas reduction right next, embedded in the grains? And that's what I've showed. This is actually possible at scale. So I'm optimistic on both ends, on, the community coming together. I made a point in the beginning, the first day, that we need stronger connection with social sciences, because it just doesn't do any good to have really, the most compelling, science if it is not transferred correctly, is not explained correctly. Unfortunately, sometimes, agriculture is a little bit by definition a conservative type of fields and approaches, and they want to see the results. And so evidence at fields scale and so on, will just bring this additional needed piece, and that comes through biophysical, physical, and social sciences coming together. So it was an excellent 3 days. It was repeated several times. So very glad to be part of this, and thanks the organizers.
Bruno, thank you. Greg, any key thoughts to share?
Yes, just a few. I'll stay off video only because my internet tends to chuck me off at times. And if I start breaking up, I'll come back. Yeah, I think there was a lot of really great diverse and successful modeling efforts. And they were focusing usually on a primary feature. So they would usually start with water or crops. And then what I've noticed over time is two things. The natural state of any model is greater complexity, because if you're really good at your first model, people come back to you and they throw money and say, hey, could you make this work too, and add this and add this? And in our dealings with people like Randy Boone at Colorado State, we keep asking him to add more because he's already got a good model. So the models tend to expand in their functionality and diversity in their functions over time. And they're starting to, I wouldn't call it mission creep, that's a bad word. It's more like they're going into areas that are needed in terms of whether SWAT is going into grassland production, Apex goes into beef production. There's this expansion, and I think that's a good thing. But we need to be able to talk to each other to both help with the expansions of the models and to try to help each other not to make mistakes that the detail groups have already made and gotten rid of. And so that shared expertise can really help. So as models expand to do more and more, because they're successful, we need to work together and have an intercomparison framework for that. Another aspect that I noticed is that almost everybody's spatializing their models now, which again, over the past 20 to 40 years, it used to be a rare model that was spatialized. Now everybody's got spatialized models, but the same issue still comes back, which is how do you compare different spatializations and whether that's the best way to do it. It may be the easiest for one particular model, but I do think the idea of as we start to scale out in terms of areas and grids, I think they're having an AgMIP perspective would really help with that, just to get everybody on the same page and also to share ideas and concepts. Right now in my field, everybody does really great work, publishes it. We all stare at it and say, that's great. And then we go back to working in our own zones again. We don't really get together much to say why, how did you get this, and the different elements of that. And generally that's worked for us. But I think that one thing that's coming is people are now asking us what we think as a rangeland community or as a crop modeling community about certain aspects, and they want to know about the uncertainties. And I think Bruno and Sotirios and all the guys are really working on some really great work with that. But people actually can deal with uncertainty pretty well. I live in Florida. It's hurricane season coming. In Florida, every year they have a new term which they give us, spaghetti models, which effectively are about 20 or 30 models, all showing the path of a hurricane that's usually barreling somewhere near my house and everybody else's houses too. And there's 30 or 40 different tracks. And the funny thing is nobody gets mad because there's 30 or 40 different tracks. They do what humans do is they start to look at the tendencies about where the storm is going. And we make decisions off that. Not only have they started to get the term spaghetti models are normally used in Florida, there's now people who tell me that, oh, if it's a Gulf hurricane, I like the European models more for that. So these are people, these are regular stakeholders out there now having preferences about what model does better for certain situations. They're ensembling crowdsourcing style. So I think that people can deal with uncertainty quite well when the products are in their direct interest, i.e., should I buckle down my house for a hurricane? So I think that Danielle and the group really showed that when you have a very close connection, the model and the results and the modeling can really sharpen each other. And I think that was a big, really cool thing to see the way GrassCast does it. And again, how to work that through. And then again, I'll bang the gong of the global side of what works in the US, what could work worldwide. There's still a modeling shortage of good modelers. The education needs are still out there. We can't, in the modeling world, make enough modelers right now for the need. So again, I think that's another thing that can come up of how are we generating new generations of people, because some models have one or two people who know the code, and if they retire or go away, suddenly that model declines. And I think we've had examples of that in my own field, looking at livestock, heat stress, and things like that, where we couldn't find the code anymore and it's not available. So again, this is issues that I think we could work up as a group. And thanks so much.
Great thoughts. I love the spaghetti model reference, and I love that people are beginning to pick and choose their favorites. You make the point very well that when it's understood to affect them directly, we all find a way to pay attention and take a greater interest and develop a better understanding. Sotirios, some thoughts, sir?
Thanks, Terry. I echo the previous panelists. Lots of great information and work shared over the last 3 days. I'm very impressed, and I learned a lot. And now there is lots to digest and think more. There was lots of good information. I will mention 2 examples that I still have in mind and to bring it up now. The first is from yesterday's presentation from Spiro. It was really good to see all this list of models, not process-based models, but different types of models. I was not fully aware of that, and I think other people, that was really good to see. And also the new data that are coming through USDA that will help us with all the regional type assessments, especially in the US Corn Belt. And today, I really enjoyed the example that Danielle shared with the modeling results and the stakeholder groups coming together, providing feedback, and then deliver a nice product. This is really good, and really want to see this more happening. We really need to work all together, the modelers and the practitioners. I truly believe models have lots to offer in making climate smart agriculture work. There are so many combinations of cropping systems, land use, management combinations, and we are limited on how many things we can test and verify in the ground. So using models is gonna be more urgent than ever. And we as modelers, or I will use the term that John put together in the first day, computational agricultural scientists. I really like this. We need to ensure that the models are in a good shape, up to date, robust, accurate, and also fast. We need to deliver information timely to support decision making. And I will conclude that to make all this work, we need to work all together. It's not one single person or one group issue. It's something we need to work all together. And I will also echo what Greg brought up about the new generation of modelers. We need to train the next generation of students to take over and expand the models that we are working today.
Well, Sotirios, thank you, and great points. John.
Well, thanks, Terry. Yeah, well, I think this was fabulous. I just congratulate NIFA and AgMIP and all the participants for a great job. I learned a lot. I see a lot of advances in modeling. Some of you know that about 6 years ago, AgMIP led a project on next generation agricultural system models. We sort of forgot to talk about that in this workshop. But, I think what we talked about in that study, we're seeing a lot of that happening now. So that's really exciting. To me, one of the most important things to take away from this is I see this as kind of, one of those tipping point opportunities. It's one of these moments that this community has a chance to really, seize the moment here and find a way to really move forward. For example, how could we ask for something better than Tim Ryder, back in that first session to say, what can we do? What does Congress need to do to move this forward? If this community doesn't take advantage of that opportunity in this moment, then really blowing it. And so, one of the things AgMIP learned from one of our, major projects that was in Africa and South Asia was when our program manager really pushed us to ask, how can we communicate our science better to stakeholders? So that's one of the things that I didn't see discussed in this session very well. Maybe we kind of missed that boat a little bit. I saw a lot of tremendous science, but I don't think we did that very much in that conference. Maybe that wasn't what we were trying to accomplish here. But going forward, I'm sure Terry, is nodding yes. Here I can see. So anyway, I'll just leave it there. By the way, Greg's example of the spaghetti models, exactly. That's one of the examples that, Greg, I've also used in some presentations to stakeholders to say, here's an example of what models can do. Remember when the hurricane was bearing down on New York and New Jersey, and they showed that turn, inland, and they nailed it. That's what this community needs to show. and convince the agricultural community and the policy community that think of the billions upon billions of dollars that have been invested in those models for decades. And to go back to my main point at the beginning of the conference, that's the investment that hasn't been done in the agricultural science, computational science community. We've got to somehow convince our stakeholders, the people with the money, that with some more, focused, well-designed investment, that's what we can do. And if we do, they'll be willing to pay up. So that's the message I would like to leave with everybody here, is that I think we're at this threshold moment, this tipping point moment, to pick up that initiative. Don't just go back to your offices and keep making your code better. But somehow we've got to, and this is a role AgMIP can play, I think, AgMIP's position to play, along with all of these other members of the community that have participated in this meeting. And I'll just close by saying what I find so encouraging is, everybody who came to this meeting, and this is what, AgMIP has seen all along for the last decade, the scientific community's willingness now to come together, work together. So let's just exploit this momentum and take advantage of it and cash in on it and take this initiative and move this forward.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wholeheartedly agree on each of the points that you made. And I do think we have a moment at hand, and it's the charge to all of us is to translate that now into forward momentum and moving on to the next steps. And with that lead in, Cynthia, we hand it to you for closing and concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. Yes, 3 days ago, I had the privilege to kick us off for this workshop. And now just a few thoughts wrapping up at the end. Although, John, what you said, what all of this panel has said, and John couldn't agree more about this tipping point idea. In climate change, we have tipping points, and this tipping point for agricultural modeling really to move into its next phase I couldn't agree more. But first, I want to start with the thank yous. First of all, thank you to Terry Nipp, yay, who just put this together. But really, Terry, thank you, really, from the bottom of AgMIP's heart. But also great contributions from the steering committee, from the organizing committee, so that you've just heard from, really, and everyone contributed in putting this together. Thanks to Eric Menkos and Maria Camilla, who were there every single minute. I spoke to Eric last night at 6 p.m. He said, "I'm eating lunch." At 6 p.m. yesterday. So thanks so much for your support for making this happen as well, and all the technical parts, etc. And then to all the presenters, the presentations were uniformly excellent, and we will be posting them. We will be getting them out to everybody, so that that's also a great part of these hybrid settings that we now that they're not going to go away. And then finally, to the participants, wow, great questions. So by the way, Alex is working on answering a few more right now as we speak. Just great questions, a whole range, some challenging, which is really super, always so important. So, and just thanks to all the participants who were here. So the conference was really this, final thank you. Thank you to USDA for supporting it. We so appreciate it. That really then AgMIP was able, it was a tremendous opportunity for AgMIP to be able to host this workshop. So thank you. That's the last and very important thank you. So this truly was an in-depth exploration, basically, of the state of agricultural modeling. It was just this amazing tour d'horizon across the spectrum of of all different types of modeling across the different agroecosystems, et cetera. So I just want to highlight three things that I do think came out and then do a proposal for the tipping point and the momentum. So first, I think that we heard from all sides that models are highly useful tools. Just recalling Brad Doran's comments about NASA data and the use of models for NASA data, that's just one example. For translating these massive amounts of data into really these big picture findings, results that then can truly provide evidence base for decision making. That's the hurricane story, right? And policy making. So I think that the 3 days really demonstrated how useful models can be. The second is that we are truly moving beyond the single use of models to the multi-model approach, to coordinated use of the models. This was a fundamental theme of the last 3 days. And this offers this potential for coordinated multi-model approaches, provides tremendous opportunities to work together as we move forward. And it's not, but of course, it's not that we're going to make one big model of everything. That is, or anything and everything. That's really not, definitely not the AgMIP approach, because each model is embodying the understanding of those processes by the group of model developers. We don't want to lose that, but by bringing all those understandings together, as AgMIP has demonstrated, there is demonstrable, John, improvement in replicating the observations and then providing much stronger confidence for the projections of whatever we're going to be, whatever the choice of decision and policy that we would be exploring with a multi-model approach. So I want to end with the potential for us coming together as in regional integrated assessments across agroecosystems of the U.S. Stakeholder driven, of course, and we can certainly have we can certainly, John, convene a wonderful workshop on stakeholder driven and participatory science and all the approaches and how that really works and can work. And here again, bringing together the community. But it really seems like now is the time for developing a protocol-based regional integrated assessments across the United States. Of course, each agroecosystem is unique and different, and the modeling can really so well incorporate those differences. But by doing a protocol approach, then we can also have strong recommendations for each of whatever regions that we hope that we could develop for these. We call them RIAs in AgMIP, but at the same time, by having a more national scale coordinated set of protocols, they can then we can have lessons learned and compare and contrast across regions as well. So we get the best. Basically, it's like this is a way that we can really get the best of both worlds. And there were some very interesting comments about scales in numerous of the presentations about how going across scales is important, and what this is something that this protocol approach in a coordinated way, stakeholder driven, don't forget, but it can really help with those scale issues as well, looking at, well, what's going on in right here, we're here in New York, our Hudson Valley dairy farmers, but also, well, what about, Bruno, and Sotirios, the gorgeous, fantastic work that you do in the Midwest, Greg with the livestock, just, and all the regions. So I want to end with maybe a call to action that we can work together, bring together, building creating the momentum for this, for a US regional integrated assessment program that we could all work together on. And with that, again, thanks to everybody. And I have a phrase that I always say. Someone said I always said this. I didn't realize I always say this, but I always say this: to be continued. Thanks so much, and thanks from AgMIP. Bye.